The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
ABC Sports presents, live in its 29th year, the Professional Bowlers Tour. Today from the Showboat Bowling Center in Las Vegas, it's a $175,000 Showboat Invitational. In our first match, the 1989 PBA Player of the Year, Venezuela's Amleto Monacelli, faces the last man to roll a perfect 300 game on TV, Bob Benoit of Topeka, Kansas. The winner of that match will meet the PBA's leading career money winner, well over $1 million, Medford, Oregon's Marshall Holman. Our match 2 survivor will then take on Freehold, New Jersey's Bohn III, the only left-hander among today's final 5. And in the championship final, tournament leader Dave Husted is making his 2nd straight televised appearance, looking to win his 7th PBA title. That's our outstanding field for today's Professional Bowlers Tour telecast. You're looking at downtown Las Vegas, Nevada, one of the world's most favorite playgrounds, framed by the Sunrise Mountain Range. And look at it. The peaks are covered by snow. One of the 2 big stories here in Las Vegas this week. It snowed on Thursday, including downtown. That long since has melted. Hello again. I'm Chris Schenkel. The other story here in Las Vegas has been the fact that 280 of the world's greatest bowlers have come back to compete in the $175,000 Showboat Invitational. We have an exciting final field of 5. Our telecast will, as usual, be followed by ABC's Wide World of Sports. To learn more about the lanes and the field, let's go inside the Showboat right now to my colleague, Nelson Burton Jr.
Thank you, Chris. It's a jam-packed house, really, here at the Showboat. The Showboat is the largest bowling center in the world, featuring 106 bowling lanes. And over the years, the PBA has bowled about 50 professional bowling tournaments here. And the field this week is sensational, Chris. The quintet features 2 great players right in the opening match. Bob Benoit, who bowled the last 300 on television a couple years ago, going against the newly elected Bowler of the Year, Amleto Monacelli. The winner of that goes against the Bowler of the Decade in the 1980s, Marshall Holman. Then in the semifinal match, the lefty, the only lefty in the field, Bohn. They say he's the man to beat in the 1990s. He's out here to try to prove it. But in the number 1 position, Dave Husted. He looks sharper than I've ever seen him in 12 years. He is so sharp that I think he could take the field very easily today. Now, Chris, you would think that basically the lanes, everybody would know these lanes. They've been here so many times, but not so. These are brand new lanes just installed about 6 months ago, and it's quite a bit different than what we used to see before. Lane 59 and 60 have basically 45 feet of oil, straight down, oil gutter to gutter, and a low friction surface. Then it's a dry back in with a high friction surface. Now, the angle that the players are playing, the right-handers will be between the 2nd and 3rd arrow into the 1-3 pocket, and the left-handers will be around the 2nd arrow into the 1-2 pocket, Chris. So a lot of money at stake and a lot of good action coming up.
Yes, a grand total of $175,000, 33 to the winner, 17, 9, 7, and 6. And over those 31 years and 29 years on ABC television, the Showboat organization has put into the till players' prize fund of many dollars, over $3 million. And here is the 2nd leading money winner of 1989 behind Mike Albee from Venezuela, 28-year-old Amleto Monacelli. First shot. All right. Continuing after a phenomenal 1989. In fact, his last 3 years have been so productive.
Well, Chris, he's a great athlete. As you well know, he was an international soccer player in Italy and has taken to bowling and trains very hard. Now let's see what Bob Benoit's answer to the Monacelli strike is.
Of 300 fame at Grand Prairie, Texas. So Bob opens his 12th television appearance here on ABC, evening the match after 1 frame.
Watch Bob Benoit, the profile of Benoit. He takes basically a 4.5 step delivery, and he keeps that ball cupped all the way back in his wrist. Look at that shot, and then he just rolls it right off his hand. See how his hand comes straight through underneath the ball with a pretty good knee bend. That's how he gets the big hook, the big lift. You don't want to go around the ball, stay underneath it.
Last year top seeded here, but lost to his roommate, Del Ballard. Didn't come up, breaking up the bucket, however, leaving only the 2-5.
Bob Benoit, Chris, came out in the early 80s on the Professional Bowlers Tour, and he threw what we call it pretty much down and in straight balls. You see his shot here sliding wide in lane 59 and leaves a kind of a tough spare, the 2-5. You always got to avoid chopping the 2 off and leaving the 5. But Benoit came out in the 80s with a straight ball, didn't have much success, and developed this style of cupping the ball with his wrist and gets the big hook, and he's been much better since then.
From the Dallas area, originally bowling out of Topeka, Kansas, now can watch along with you at native of Venezuela. Came to the World Open in Chicago as a 16-year-old in 1978. Spinning and pirouetting down there is that lone pin, Bo.
Pretty close to a good break and breaking up the 4-9 and making a strike out of it. The 2 pin goes to sideboard and then rolls out the 4 and almost takes out the 9. And Monacelli with that 5-step delivery, high backswing. See that hand opened up. Now watch him twist it underneath the ball, but straight underneath it. Very similar to Benoit.
For Amleto. Strike and a spare here in our very first game, and if you just joined us, the winner will meet.
The great Marshall Holman will be coming up.
And then Parker Bohn, and our tournament leader is a man that appeared like Marshall on our telecast a week ago in Torrance, Dave Husted. I like that shot.
Overhead shot. See the line they're playing.
Loves the left lane. 2 strikes there for Monacelli, who last year earned a bundle, $213,815. Bob Benoit, $88,930 last year.
Look at how deep inside. You almost think Monacelli and Benoit are shooting a 10-pin. They're playing way to the left to accommodate that big hook, and you can see where he rolls the ball, right between the 3rd and 4th arrows.
And then the 310.
That's one of our guys. The 310, the baby split. Professional bowlers at this level should try to make it every time and get the ball over here next to the 3-pin, have it deflect into the 10-pin. All right, right over the 3-pin, slide it into the 10. This is the overhead shot.
Nope, an open frame for Benoit. Disaster early, 3rd frame, trailing by 13 now.
Second week in a row that we've seen the 310 baby split miss. The AC Delco Classic last week was a pivotal point in one of the matches. And here Bob Benoit falls 13 behind by not converting the 310. Let's see how he can recover in the 4th.
And faced with another split now. What a bad break, the 4-6-7 for Benoit.
Well, Chris, is almost one of those splits we say you can't make. He has an option of trying to slide the 6-pin over into the 4-7 zone or shoot at the 4-7 and try to bounce one of the pins out. Let's see what he goes for.
So it is back-to-back open frames from which it is very, very difficult to recover. Amleto leads by 24.
Medication.
One of the good friends of bowling, Jim Bennett. He's the chairman of the Salute the Champions Dinner being held in St. Louis, Missouri, February 11th. Chris honoring Mike Rorty of the Anheuser-Busch Company, and you will be one of the honorees, and I'm kind of looking forward to that dinner.
Well, it'll be nice to be in your hometown and share that honor with all my ABC buddies, men and women. Now it's Monacelli. He's on today. Double for him, increasing his lead to 34 pins in the first game.
When Monacelli won the Touring Players Championship about 2 months ago, Chris, I was watching. It was on NBC at the time, and that was the finest performance I've ever seen him have. He dominated the field by almost 500 pins in the qualifying and then destroyed an opponent with this style in the final championship game. And I'll tell you what, if he can develop this and keep his waiting for the ball and roll it that smoothly, they're going to have years and years of time to try to catch this young man. He is tough.
And he is just hitting that pocket so solid. 44-pin lead. And now Bob Benoit. When he bowled that perfect game at the Forum, Grand Prairie, Texas, he also won the event.
Well, he gets a little love tap out of the 10-pin, and Chris, we remember when he did bowl that 300, that was the first game he ever bowled in the championship round, and his average, obviously, at the end of the day was 300. But now, after 2 years later, his average has dropped below 200, as you see his ball just tick out the 6, lays in the channel, pops the 10. So with a 300 start, he's had some dismal performances lately in the championship round, and right now he's only going at a 176 pace. Needs to get some strikes.
Reflected on his facial expression. Crossing over, leaving the 3-6-10.
One drawback to Bob Benoit's game, his speed control is not that of a real consistent player. When he's on, he shoots fabulous scores, but right now he needs a little more ball speed. He's just too soft. He can't control that hook as he goes across lane for the 3-6-10.
Again, an open frame. Now trailing by 56. Monacelli with a 3-bagger, now shooting in the 6th frame. Four in a row. A little earlier, we had the opportunity to ask Amleto, was he surprised at being named Player of the Year?
I wasn't really surprised. After I won the last 2 tournaments, I knew I had a good chance, but I wasn't sure. I really didn't want to think about it because I didn't want to get disappointed if I didn't get it. But all I can say, I'm very happy and very pleased with the decision that we made.
And we congratulate him. A solid 10, Bo?
Solid 10. His brother Rodolfo and his wife Teresa look on, obviously knowing that he has a commanding lead of nearly 65 pins. He just has to keep his tempo, Chris, and he'll be very tough all through the day. And next opponent obviously going to be Marshall Holman, so he'll have his work cut out for him.
All right, we're in our first game. Amleto Monacelli and Bob Benoit. Leading by 65 is the Venezuelan. More following this.
Cup downhill from Kitzbühel, Austria. All on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Next.
Beauty, grace, and daring. Following us, Wide World of Sports. Monacelli now shooting in the 8th frame with a spare up. All right, a high hit, and it's leaving the 3-4-6. While we were away, Bob Benoit bowled in the 7th frame with a strike, then left the 7-pin, covered it for a spare in the 8th. The lead is still 62 pins by Monacelli.
Has to slide that 3-pin over in the 4. The ball will take out the 6. He still has a commanding lead.
So that's Amleto's first open frame coming in the 8th. His lead is still 51, 175 through 8. And he'll move to his favorite lane, the left, as Marshall Holman, the opponent for the winner of this game, is continuing to stay loose off to our right. His brother and wife appreciate that. So well in hand for the Venezuelan, the PBA Player of the Year, Amleto Monacelli, who will meet the great Mr. Holman.
Just for Men, the revolutionary men's hair coloring that blends away gray in 5 minutes. and by Extra Strength Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
We're back again at the Showboat Lanes in Las Vegas, and Amleto Monacelli of Venezuela. Powerful game with 9 strikes, eliminating Bob Benoit, who shot 160, Monacelli 235. Marshall Holman was on our telecast just a week ago at Gable House in Torrance as we look at Joe Antonoro on the left, the commissioner of the PBA, and Frank Modica, president and CEO of Showboat in Las Vegas and chairman of Showboat Atlantic City.
And we will have 4 ABC tournaments there at Showboats. And there's the Budweiser points. Chris, first place, 125 points this week. Second, 100. Third, 80. 70 for fourth. And 60 for fifth.
And, of course, last week, Ron Williams, the winner, picked up 135, and non-winner Thayer with 100. Marshall Holman's first shot doesn't get the break he wanted on the right lane. And there are games of chance. Even can sit in comfort and pull that lever. Showboat Hotel and Casino and Bowling Center. Remember that following us, as usual, ABC's 1-2 punch, second part being Wide World of Sports, and Bo today, World Gymnastics Championships and the dangerous downhill from Kitzbühel World Cup.
Well, I like watching Brandy Johnson. She was sensational at the vault, and she's really good in the all-around. Of course, the downhill, I know they get some tremendous speeds going downhill. One of the most dangerous sports there is. That's following the Pro Bowlers Tour on ABC Sports. Now, Monacelli is coming up on the left lane. Holman, being the higher finisher in the tournament, decided that he would finish first and let Monacelli finish last, put some extra pressure on him. So Monacelli, who rolled a 230 the first game, just breezing over Bob Benoit, should have a little more competition with Marshall Holman. First shot.
Marshall, meanwhile, putting tape in the holes of his bowling ball after a dismal practice shot, which just did not come up, Nelson.
Well, he sent it wide, and it didn't get the break he wanted, and he leaves the 2-4-10. It's a very makeable split for the Pro Bowlers, as you see Marshall Holman playing the deep inside line, the ball coming right into your living. And Monacelli sends it wide, leaving the 2-4-10. Needs to slide that 2-pin into the 10.
So after a big 235 in his first game victory, he has an open frame leading off here in our second match of the Showboat Invitational. 33,000 to the winner, 17 for second. Marshall last week in the among the 5 finalists, but needs a win. With shots like that, he will get a step closer. His last win was in 1988.
The Marshall Holman profile, that low stance. Watch how steady his shoulders and head stay all the way through the shot. A very horizontal or parallel swing to the floor. See the long slide? His arm is parallel to the floor all the way through the release area, where you take a player like Monacelli, who is almost vertical. He plants that right foot and just really cups that ball and slams it down into the ground. A little bit different style, but both power players.
Marshall 5th last week, losing in the first game to Dave Husted, today's tournament leader. So it's a impressive double for the man from Medford, Oregon.
He likes it. Holman, when he gets rolling, is as tough as they come. The key for Marshall Holman is to get through the first 2 frames as Monacelli comes up in the second.
Mark of a true professional. Perfect strike following an open frame. Because you make errors in bowling and seldom can you recover, unlike all the other sports, Nelson.
Well, in golf, you can hit it a little wide or hit it out in the woods, and sometimes
and come back with a brilliant shot, you know,
and make up the shot. So right now, Monacelli with a double would close the lead of Marshall Holman's down to 12 pins.
A deliberate professional. Ten pin on the left lane for Amleto.
The deep inside, sliding towards the left channel, sending it wide, crossing maybe 15 or 20 boards, gets the sharp break, but does not get the 10-pin to kick out here. 6-pin just slides right by. Any suspect part of Monacelli's game, it's his spare shooting.
So it is Marshall Holman working on a double, shooting in the 3rd frame, and increases lead to 32. A stylist using all the approach.
Chris, we have a 25-second rule that's in with the PBA, and it means Marshall, from the time that Monacelli finished his shot, has 25 seconds to release the ball. He just gets under the gun there.
Leaving the 6-10 as he crossed over, the man with 4 major titles to his credit.
Having trouble with his thumb hole, Marshall uses a cork gripper in the front of his thumb hole and tape in the backside of his thumb hole, and he was fiddling around with it while he was warming up, and you see him bowling it to dry it off. He'll tighten that grip, but it just doesn't feel comfortable right now.
Earlier we asked Marshall, how did 2 distractions affect your game this week?
Well, I'd like to send my condolences to Terry and her family. Her mother, Pinky Chenard, passed away earlier this week, an extremely courageous woman who will be dearly missed by all who knew her. As far as my little strained groin muscle, it affected me a little bit on Thursday evening. I went to UNLV, had some trainers help me out over there, and last night it really felt fine.
And he's looking good. So here's a 4-6-7 for Marshall. And like Marshall, we extend our sympathy to his lady friend Terry, passing of her mother in New Hampshire.
Marshall opens the door back up for Monacelli, cuts right through the middle, leaves the 4-6-7. So just go for the 4-7.
All right, each professional now with an open frame, 74 through 4, and now the lead has been decreased to 6 for Holman. We'll be back.
The ARC Pinole Open next Saturday on ABC's Pro Bowlers Tour.
Next Saturday, Pinole Open. We'll be there. Join us as we'll be live as we are in Las Vegas. Monacelli with a spare up shooting in the 4th. Seeing a little of everything now as we are into our 2nd game. Monacelli winning the 1st.
Well, Chris, when we see these splits and the ball drifting high, what all he can do is just hope to hit some of these pins over here, the 6-10, and bounce them out or maybe slide them across, but just shoot for 2 and don't lose the pin count. It's foolish to really go for the spare.
And for Amleto, player of the year, 2 open frames out of 4.
A lot of the amateurs at home, although we set up the championship pair right at the top of the telecast, wonder what kind of lane conditions the pros are bowling on this year, and it's basically what we call oil even gutter to gutter. They have a machine they used here that puts oil individually on each board. The surface friction is almost identical across the lane, so if you pull it or make a mistake, you're going to pay.
There it is. And the fans, capacity crowd here, loving that type of shot.
Well, and what we like to see in bowling is that if you make a bad shot, pay the penalty. But if you make a good one like Monacelli just did, be rewarded. Don't get tapped or something else like that. So I think we have a very competitive condition out here. This match is going down to the last frame.
Marshall comes high, leaving the 3-6 after an open frame. Still has the lead, however.
Well, while we were away in the commercial, Marshall brought out another bowling ball out of his bag, and he tried to get a better feel. As you see, the deep inside line he's playing between the 3rd and 4th arrows, but just not getting the good feel on the bowling ball and struggling trying to hit the pocket.
Will that cause you to raise up at the line?
Definitely. When you feel yourself losing that ball, you'll raise up. And some of it, Chris, could be as we both see him raising up just as he comes through his pivot step. His second to last step going into his slide could be from that groin pull. You know, you can bowl 6-8 games and favor an injury and then develop a bad habit. So I think the combination of the groin pull he had the other day and the thumb hole just not being comfortable on either ball is affecting Holman. As you see his grip, he uses the 3/4 grip, inserting his fingers down between the first and second knuckles, bringing the thumb all the way down.
Okay, he liked that on the left lane. Ah, yes. Almost emulated his golf swing after the shot. He says he's a 7 handicapper, but those who've watched him play say he's more like a 3.
Yeah, we can travel Marshall at 7 for all his opponents. Now, Monacelli trails by 22, can cut the lead to 12, 6 frame.
Okay. He had 9 strikes in his first game victory over Bob Benoit, shooting a 235 to Benoit's 160. And left-hander Parker Bohn III continues to warm up off to our right. You just heard the pinfall. He will meet the winner of this second game.
Amleto started bowling at age 8. His father owns 2 bowling centers in Barquisimeto, Venezuela. As you see the overhead shot, Monacelli with a strike here in the 7th to cut the lead of Holman's down to just 2 pins.
Well, it's a 2-pin for Monacelli on the left. The pinfall you just heard was after a shot by our tournament leader, Dave Husted.
Monacelli wants this ball to break sharply. Doesn't quite do the job. Gets away from a fairly easy spare. Could have left the 2-10 split. He's right in the match.
All right, 13 bowling pins separate Marshall Holman and Amleto Monacelli. We'll be back with the end following this.
Downhill from Kitzbühel, Austria. All on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Next.
There is our tournament leader, and we remind you that Wide World follows us. Look at that lefty.
Be interesting to see how he does in the semifinal match against the winner of this match here. And he, being a left-hander, has no wear on that left side. We see the right-handers beginning to struggle as the oil or conditioner is carried down towards the pocket area.
Had a strike up. He's left the 6-10. Talking a bit to himself and very disgusted.
Chris, when Monacelli won here 2 years ago, remember we saw the same type of lane conditions. We see Holman shot from that deep inside line. Drifting high, gets the 6-10 spare, avoids the split. But remember when Monacelli switched to a completely straight ball and just mowed the field right down. The scores weren't big, but you can't play the big hook when there's not a big pocket area.
As we mentioned, Marshall was 5th last week in Torrance. Last year he had 2 seconds, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th. And since he won in Venice, Florida in 1988, he has made 11 telecasts. Just having trouble completing the job. Tomorrow on ABC Sports, top college seniors take the field both for the final game of their collegiate careers, the East-West Shrine football game. Players like Notre Dame's Tony Rice. 3-6-10 for Marshall Holman. Indiana University's Anthony Thompson, a great running back. Superstars, college football's exciting year here on ABC, live at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. That's tomorrow, right here.
Marshall Holman struggling here. Every shot has either been in the pocket or high. He left the 6-10 in the 3rd, the 4-6-9 in the 4th. He left the 3-6 in the 5th, the 6-10, and the 3-6-10 again. So
it's a close match now. Monacelli trailing by only 10, shooting in the 8th frame, spare working.
match is up for grabs. Only 10-pin difference coming down to the critical 8th, 9th, and 10th frames.
Another high hit. 6, 7, 10 for Amleto.
Because you cannot see sometimes what you must do on a bowling lanes, it becomes very difficult. What you have to do is the 6, 7, 10. He'll go for this. He'll get the ball over in the 6, 7, 10 area and try to slide the 6 over into the 7. It's right here. Shoot it on over to the 7 pin, and that's the way you convert it.
How disappointing. It's so beautiful when it is converted.
Actually caught the 6-pin too thin. If he had had the 4-6 710, the what we call the big tonk, he'd have made that. He just slid that 6-pin over and look at that 4-pin spot right there. He'd have tapped the 4 into the 7, but not to be. As right now he's going at a 167 pace and Holman at 191.
Oh, now a 2 and a sleeper 8 for Monacelli.
Advantage to Parker Bohn. No matter which player wins this match, they are both struggling, both confused, and unless they change to a hard shot with a lot less hook, I think Parker Bohn will eat him up in the semifinals. But this one's still up for grabs.
So pivotal right here, this game, because if you lose, you leave with a check of 7,000, but if you win, you're a step closer to the winner's prize of 33. Former winner here, Amleto Monacelli, whose hobby is his clothesline, his clothing line, I should say, in Venezuela. Marshall Holman.
Marshall Holman is just about had the knockout punch on that particular shot. He needs 9 pins on 2 balls to shut out Monacelli. Holman going 191 pace. The best Monacelli can do is 177. Marshall, for the very first time in 9 frames, got the ball wide. He had been high on every shot as he takes a re-rack coming into the 10.
There is Ernie Schlegel, who won last year's ARC Pinole Open. We sustained a power outage. Hopefully not next week when we go back there for another PBA event.
Although it wasn't pretty, Marshall Holman wins the game. The worst he can end up with is 179, as he's going to try, I guess, another ball to get a better feel. But 179 is lock city. The most Monacelli can do is 177.
So it'll be Monacelli picking up a check for $7,000. And it'll be Marshall Holman going against Parker Bohn III. Coming up, Bo's tip of the week on warming up.
On this week's bowling tip, I'd like to show you some stretching exercises that'll help you prepare for your bowling session and help you avoid injury. First, for the hamstring muscles. Keep your knees locked and try to touch your toes, but don't bounce up and down. Hold this position. Then for the inside of the thighs and lower back, try to stretch out. First to the left, feel it all through the right leg and the left leg, then back to the right. This will help loosen up the lower back and the thigh muscles. And for the upper body, stretch out those arms and chest. Pull that elbow all the way back until you feel it stretch through the chest and through the tricep area. Work both sides. And finally, the best exercise of all is the jump rope. Whether you're a bowler or not, if you can improve your jump roping, you'll improve your physical health. Watch this. For all you bowlers, improve your health and improve your bowling game. Do a few exercises and you'll enjoy life more.
ABC Sports brings you the ultimate bowling home video.
Now, let's get on with the action.
Learn how to fix your problems the right way. Improve your game strategy. And practice smarter. It's Bo Burton's instructional video, Score More. Just $24.98 plus $3 shipping. Call 1-800-4ABC.
Then Holman with 191, eliminating the Venezuelan. So it's Holman going against New Jersey's Parker Bohn III. We're at the Showboat.
That equilateral triangle of 3-pound, 8-ounce pins waiting their destiny in this semifinal match.
And our upcoming stops, Nelson, Pinole, California to San Francisco Bay Area. That's a week from today. Then on to Grand Prairie, Texas. Jeannie Halsey and the Forum and those delightful people in that Texas town.
They're always ready for the bowlers, and that's where Benoit shot that 300 game, so we can expect some good scores there again as you look at the part of the expanded Showboat Casino area.
Some happy, some not so happy. But they're having fun at this gaming capital of the world. Field of 280, this is the way the 24 top. This is the way they finish, Bo.
Jim Stefanich, she's almost ready for the seniors tour up there. Steel Smith on his comeback. Watch this guy, Robert Lawrence, tough little player. Hanley up there, the cranker. Mr. Snell up there, Mike Albee. Deadeye and Bornhop from St. Louis, Leroy. There he is, Don Moser, 2 weeks in a row. Lenny Borsch. Stayrook, the lefty. Mark Thayer, we saw him at the LC Delco last week. Gobo and Dickinson. Dickinson had a hot series of 800 for 3 games this week. Dave Ferraro, Jimmy Pritz. Ryan Schaefer, former Rookie of the Year. Martin, 23rd, and rounding out the top 24, another Rookie of the Year, Steve Hoskins.
And as we're in Las Vegas, we just were told the disappointing news, the continuing saga of Canadian sprinter Ben Johnson. The International Amateur Athletic Union has stripped Ben Johnson of all of his titles, all of his world records.
You know, Chris, it's hard to say whether it's a real shame or he was misled into being doped into the steroid effects. So, unfortunately, not so good for Ben Johnson.
And in another round ball sport, 10th ranked Louisville, 86, Memphis State, 69. That is a final score. And 8th ranked Duke Blue Devils, 97-69 over an arch rival Wake Forest. Those are 2 final scores as we're here with the second stop on a tour of 16 Winter Tour cities on the Professional Bowlers Tour. And stepping in now is Parker Bohn III. He's the left-hander. He was one of 41 left-handers that started here earlier in the week.
This could be a mismatch if Parker's hitting the lanes. Holman is still struggling in the last match.
10-pin on the left lane.
Pretty neat shot for Parker Bohn. He sends the ball wide, drives that 5-pin right in front of the 2. Doesn't get the good break, but a very simple spare for him. Watch the angle of the ball. Hits the 1-2, then ticks that 5-pin out to 5. Doesn't quite get to the 10.
Had a wonderful year last year, earning over $135,000. Parker Bohn of Freehold, New Jersey. Lean and ready.
Well, let's see what kind of adjustments Holman makes. He struggled through that first match against another right-hander, but he knows with his experience that Parker Bohn being a lefty, he might have to shoot a much bigger score than last game to get to the final match against David Husted. So we'll watch for an adjustment. A little more speed.
That's the original Marshall Holman.
Racket.
Asking for a re-rack from Harry Golden, our tournament director for 29 years. Down there with Frank Esposito, same number of years. PBA coordinator and PBA public relations chief, Kevin Shippey. And the man who's had 8 $100,000 years bowling as a pro, 6 in a row, a record, 21 titles. Earl Anthony with 41, Mark Ruff with 33, Don Johnson and Dick Weber with 26. And my colleague seated next to me, 17 championships.
And not adding at a very quick rate, I might say, as we see Parker Bohn up here. Now, why the left side would be different is an explanation that amateurs need to know. There's oil or conditioner on the lane. As a right-hander's bowl, they carry it towards the pocket. Since nobody's bowled on the left side, it's got a smooth area to
Strange sounding.
Yes.
Hit.
And sometimes when I say there's oil carry down, as you see the style of Parker Bohn, that can benefit a player too. So sometimes it works in a negative way and sometimes a positive way. As you see the ideal arm swing of Parker Bohn inside out. That style was taught to him by the great Dave Davis, Hall of Famer.
.510 and 144 pounds. 26 years old. He and his wife Mary, proud parents of Parker Bohn IV.
Parker Bohn IV was in his little baby carrying wheelchair as he came in today. He's in the audience somewhere.
All right, a powerful strike, and Mary likes it. They were married at a bowling establishment in New Jersey, same establishment where Parker's mother and father met. That can be romantic too, Bo.
Not so bad. Howell Lanes, New Jersey. Let's see if Holman can get going here. Come on, Marshall, just cut it loose, bye.
Kind of two.
All right, we watched the trajectory of Marshall Holman's ball. He's playing that inside line. The ball looks like it wants to flip back to the pocket. There's too much oil or conditioner in that area, and the ball slides by. It won't make the bite. What he must do, and it's very simple to see from an announce booth here, is maybe move 5 or 6 boards to the right on the approach and go more directly into the 1-3 pocket. For this spare, he's just going to throw a straight ball right down the middle. We'll see what he does on his strike shot. Holman's got all the shots, Chris. We know that, and he doesn't throw such a big hook today like he used to, so he can move to the right on the approach, throw the ball much harder, and eliminate some of that sporadic lane condition.
Leading by 1-10. Fourth frame.
Okay, let's see what he does. Now, he needs to move more to the right on the approach, towards the ball return. Go straight towards the hole. If he keeps the speed slow, he's going to struggle. Breaks down the 4-9 split. What he does is he leaves the 2-pin. The ball slid by. So his game says slow the ball up, let it break a little bit more. But when you do, it breaks too sharply, and you have no control in the last 10 or 15 feet. And it's hard to keep from getting open frames and very difficult to get any strikes.
Now for the 9. He made that look easy enough, but he followed the path all the way. All even in our third game of the afternoon from Las Vegas.
The East-West Shrine Football Classic, tomorrow on ABC Sports.
We're looking at Cliff Taylor, Vice President, Showboat Casino and Bowling Center here. Longtime friend. East-West Shrine game, Bo, has been a longtime friend. I televised many of them in the past, and they're important. It's important for 2 reasons. It shows the players to the pro scouts, and also it benefits the Shriners' hospitals.
And speaking of that, as you see Parker Bohn go wide and leave the 6-9 spare, Parker Bohn participated in a Shrine Hospital promotion and fundraiser with me last year in Danbury, Connecticut. Ball sliding by. He's having the same trouble as the right-handers. Once again, this is a really tough spare. You look at it and you say, should I give it room? But I don't want to slide by the 6. But if you pull the ball a little bit, you can chop the 6 off the 9.
All right, it's a spare in the 4th frame for Parker Bohn, whom we asked earlier, why do you perform well here?
Well, as you know, Showboat is quite a big center, and going across the house, I found out that by going straighter down the lane, the characteristics are much better for my ball. So the straighter I go, the better I bowl.
Well, Chris, this is actually 4 bowling centers. When we first came here in the late 50s, there were 24 lanes, and they added 20 more, then they added 36 more, and then 36 again for the big center they have.
Gets the 8 out of there. Only a second strike in 5 frames. Turning the screw a bit on Marshall Holman, who eliminated Monacelli in the previous game.
Best shot of the day for Parker Bohn. Drives right through the 1-2, spanks that 5. It chops off the 9. 6-pin comes off the wall and gets the 9 out.
When this man is pumped up, he can perform as good as any of them.
Exceptional shot by Marshall Holman. He put a little extra spin on the ball, topped it a little bit with his hands, which we don't really recommend, but it cut the hook down so he can go straighter towards the pocket. Hopefully he can solve both lanes and give Parker Bohn a run for his money, but the match is even through 5. Holman has to be very aggressive to stay in this match. He's got to take some chances.
All but the 10, an opportunity to go into a 10-pin lead.
As you look at the overhead, you'll see the soft 10, but very aggressive shot. He picks up his tempo to the foul line, sticks a little bit, and keeps the ball in play. He doesn't get an open frame. He gives himself a chance to get that double. Remember, this is match play action. It doesn't make any difference to shoot 150 or 250. As long as you win, you advance. The match is even right now.
All right. For those of you that just joined us, Amleto Monacelli defeated Bob Benoit in the first game 235 to 160. Then Holman with 5 strikes shot a 191 to Monacelli's 161. Now he's in the semifinal game, the winner to meet the tournament leader Dave Husted. Could have an all-Oregon final. But the man from the East Coast, Freehold, New Jersey, with a double there, takes a 10-pin lead. First time he's led.
And he showed some emotion with that one. He gave Marshall Holman a little of his own act as he jumps right on the first strike. And that's the first double we've had in almost a whole game. Here he comes. He knows he's throwing his best shot of the match. Takes a 10-pin lead. Key shot coming up here to really put the pressure on Holman, who is struggling so much. If he can get him 20 pins ahead, I think he's got him.
Carefully setting himself on the approach. Shots like that is the reason he's made the finals here 3 straight years. Parker Bohn leading by 20 now in the semifinal game. Following this message, we'll be back.
On ABC's Pro Bowlers Tour.
The Stars will be there in the San Francisco Bay Area a week from today as we bring in the finals. Perhaps David Husted. He's our tournament leader and has been a star for a long time. Could emerge as a big one in the 90s.
Holman must get going. He trails by 20 pins, 7th frame. Oh, yeah.
Seemed like he had to wait forever for that ball to get to the pocket, but it worked.
Well, he cut his hook down. He went straight down the boards. He didn't cover a lot of boards. A good lesson to be learned here, especially a lot of the young power players we see around the country in junior leagues. What happens is when you can't get the ball to swing back, don't try to throw more hook. Go straight down the boards. Holman has done it so well the last 3 frames. He's kept himself in the match, but he's in a must situation here in the 8th. Second time we've seen that happen to Marshall Holman. In the 4th frame, he went up high. Watch the 2-pin, on the 3rd pin on the left-hand part of your screen. See it go to the left, drives out the 7, knocks out the 4, but doesn't take out the 9. Second time that's happened to Holman on that lane.
Now it is Parker Bohn. What a year in '89. Best year ever. Won his 2nd title, the Brunswick World. He had 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, 212 average. Competed in 33 tournaments. 26 years old. Seven untouched.
Real good shot by Parker Bohn. You see, he's keeping his speed up and the ball hook down to keep it under control. He's a little bit late with the break. The 2nd pin on the left-hand part of your screen, the 4-pin doesn't quite get the 7, but that's not a bad shot for Parker Bohn because he has a 19-pin lead, and that's a lot when your opponent's not throwing any strikes.
Parker Bohn. I always ask these players their hobbies. Like last week, Ron Williams collected baseball cards. This guy likes to teach 120 average bowlers and make them better.
Well, if he had missed that, he'd have taken a lesson himself. He had the match well in hand. He just nicked that 7-pin. 9th frame. The only person I think who can beat Parker Bohn right now is himself.
Mary Bohn.
Holman must situation. Needs to throw a double to have any chance of winning the match. 9th frame.
There's one.
Marshall Holman can still win this tournament if he can strike here in the 10th and 11th frames. He could take the lead, and he hasn't even been close in this match. He's hung close, hung close. He finally changed to the proper shot in the 5th frame, and now he's giving himself a chance to win the tournament, but he has to strike on this ball.
And it's on the left lane. Did carry the 7.
One of the great talents. Look at those eyes. There's fire in his eyes. He has a chance to win. He has not struck on this lane the whole match. Whack. 10 in the pit. He can now take the lead. Just hang in there, Marshall, and he could creep up on Parker Bohn.
Meanwhile,
this is for the lead.
that's why he's won 21 titles, 4 majors. But he's had a tough 1989, finished 5th last week.
What I'm seeing Marshall Holman do, I never saw him do when he was younger. He always just tried to hook it more, overpower the lane, overpower the pins. You can't beat the lane condition. It will always win. Holman has made the adjustment and now has a chance to not only win the match, but take the whole tournament if he can beat Husted, but it's not over.
Look at that. Finishing with 4 in a row.
Chris, I've seen Holman bowl 260s, 270s, win championships, win the U.S. Open here on ABC, but that has to be one of his best performances, the way he turned it around. He struggled through that first match, and now he knew he was up against a much stronger opponent with Parker Bohn, has given himself a chance to win. But for Parker, he must strike on this ball. If he strikes, he wins the match. If he doesn't, Holman will bowl David Husted.
It's on the right lane.
Holman wins.
All but the 4-pin for Parker Bohn III. So Marshall is 1 match away from a title that's eluded him since '88. Husted, his opponent.
Frank Gifford. Today on ABC's Wide World of Sports, I'll be in Kitzbühel, Austria for the Hahnenkamm Downhill, which takes on a unique look for the 50th running of this event. Plus from Stuttgart, West Germany, the World Gymnastics Championships. Today, Romania's Daniela Silovac, the Soviet Union's Svetlana Boganskaya, and Brandy Johnson of the USA battle in the women's all-around competition. It's all just ahead of 4:30 Eastern, right after the bowling. Now back to Chris Schenker. Chris?
Okay, Frank, it is an exciting show coming up. For a lot of people, the Showboat Casino generates excitement. This is just adjacent to the 106 bowling lanes. We're in the portion that has 70 lanes, and Holman winning by 2 pins after his victory over Monacelli, eliminating Parker Bohn, and now 2 men from Oregon. Okay, they go head-to-head, so I know we'll have some excited viewers in that beautiful state, Bo, and we have an opportunity here. One of our features over the years is Ask Bo. Questions that you have sent in. Do we have an answer for one today?
Well, we got to go get a question first, Chris, and it goes something like this. It's from Stony Livingstone, and he says, Dear Bo, when inserts are put in a bowling ball, can the inserts be above the outside of the bowling ball? Is this legal? No, it is not legal. If you put anything in your finger holes or thumb holes, it must stay below the surface of the bowling ball, or it's illegal. So if you have any questions, send your questions to Ask Bo.
Post Office Box 217, Ansonia Station, New York, New York, 10023. 29-year-old David Husted, seated from Milwaukee, Oregon, going against Medford, Oregon's Marshall Holman, who has 2 victories Totally warmed for the occasion. Winner will get 33. Runner-up will get 17.
Big match. Two of the best players in the game today. And the last time I recall, Husted has been fairly tough on Holman over the years.
A 10. And on the left lane.
Yep, he's in the pocket, though. Holman is playing his game. He looks confident. He looks more determined today, Chris. I don't know if it's because the tragedy in his family, sometimes that inspires you, or whatnot, but he is very cerebral out there and under control, and he just won a wonderful match against Parker Bohn. One of his best performances.
So for him holding up our two finalists last week in this game. Holman with a spare, finishing 5th at the AC Delco Classic, and David Husted, whom we see for the first time in the competition today, finishing 4th. Leaving the 3-6-10. And Bo, I guess you could tape these two and use it as a lesson. They're really stylists, aren't they?
Very much so. The high backswing of David Husted gets a lot of leverage in it. He has a swing very similar to Holman's, although it's higher. It's what we call parallel to the floor. It's not a vertical swing like Amleto Monacelli coming straight down into the release point.
Well done. And here you have a chance to compare the way they go about their task, because Husted is 6'2", 170, and Marshall is 5'9", 140 plus.
All different sizes in this game, but for David Husted, he's got a tough task in front of him. His game fits these lanes a little bit better than Marshall Holman, because David doesn't throw the big hook. But it's a tough lane condition out there, and he's a little bit floundering here. He's guessing a little bit. Holman knows exactly what he wants to do.
Husted, with 6 titles, including the 1982 United States Open, his very first title. Holman, meanwhile, as this capacity crowd looks on, has 4 majors, 2 Firestones, 2 U.S. Opens. Now 4 on the right lane.
Almost got a great break off the sideboard. The 2-pin cut between the 4 and 7 pins, and didn't quite knock out the 4. As Holman with a deep inside line. More speed in his approach. Holman picks up his ball speed. As you see, the 2-pin just missed the 4. Holman picks up his ball speed by picking up his approach speed. Some players pick up their ball speed by using a longer arm swing. That's the way David Husted would do it. Either way works very well.
Marshall loose here in the championship match after 2 wins over Monacelli, 191 to 161, and then over Parker Bohn, 218 to 216. His opponent finished strong last night to get to the top spot tournament later. Never looks at the opponent.
Not a bad idea. Play his own game. It's no defense.
Now a 7-pin.
Holman doing what he has to do. Just keep the ball around the pocket. Don't go high like he was the first 6 or 7 frames of this first match. Plays that inside line, more speed, head pin the sideboard. Doesn't get the action over in the left-hand corner.
And Holman continues to mark 3 spares in as many frames. Husted back up. Spare and strike, shooting in the 3rd.
Excellent all-around athlete. Played high school basketball. Good golfer. And one of the best bowlers in the world. This is the best I've ever seen him.
Oh, he loved that double. Put him into a 12-pin lead. Earlier, we asked David that apparently he is at the top of his game now.
Well, in preparation, Bo, for the 1990 tour, I worked on 2 things. One was keeping my head very still through the approach, and the other was my hand release. So far, the practice has really paid off. Here I am again on the show, and I want to win today.
he was pulling his head up on the pivot step, or second to last step, and trying to get his thumb out of the ball a little quicker with the release to get a better roll. That was another good swing.
A 9-pin. We've seen a lot of 9s today.
Well, because the oil or conditioner is equal gutter to gutter, if you send it too wide, you're going to miss the head pin to the right, and there's always that fear of missing it right, so a player has a tendency just to pinch it up a little bit higher, and nobody has really gotten a good kick from the 4-pin into the 9.
So all clean for both professionals here at the Showboat Lanes in Las Vegas. We'll see more of this championship final following this. 21-time champion Marshall Holman. 2 victories today at the Showboat Lanes in Las Vegas in the title match against another professional from Oregon, David Husted. 4th frame. A 10.
Another tough break by Holman, but look at how well he's kept the ball in play. 10-pin in the first frame, 4-pin, then a 7-pin, then another 10-pin. He could have 4 in a row, but he's kept himself in the match. I don't think anybody's going to run away. Just stay close like he did in the Parker Bohn match and try to nip him at the wire in the 10th frame.
Four consecutive spares for Marshall Holman. 5th last week.
Re-rack.
Husted 4th. Re-rack.
2 re-racks allowed each game. Holman taking one on the left-hand lane. And a key to Holman to watch, he went through a streak in 1983 where he only won 1 match and 15 championship round appearances. And when he has his concentration back like it is now, he doesn't get upset. He controls his emotions, let them come naturally. Don't make them happen. He's very, very tough. If he would take this demeanor all the time, he would win more tournaments.
Then comes high, leaving the 3-6. Really disgusted.
Well, you know, there's a Holman out there that I haven't seen in a while. That's a hard-trying Holman. Just as he went up to the foul line, everybody in the audience heard a beeper go off. It would have affected the Holman that is wondering what's happening. So as you see the spirit for Marshall Holman, he needs to get the ball right over in this area and just knock out the 3 and 6.
Well, at least he's consistent. Spares, 5 of them for Holman. And Husted continuing to lead by 14.
Still in the match. He's giving him the old, put him to sleep, don't worry about me, Dave, I'm struggling. Husted cannot pay attention to that, or Holman will sneak up and nip him.
You don't psych each other, do you?
Well, when you're struggling, you want the other guy to be not trying too hard, but Holman's Husted's bearing down.
Another 9.
Well, this is the personality of David Husted. He's a good speed control player. By that I mean if he goes a little high like that, he has the touch of putting another half a mile an hour on the bowling ball and make it settle in the pocket. Or if he's coming in light, slowing it down just a little bit.
You're looking at Michelle Husted, mother of Corey. Tense.
Thing to watch for in David Husted is to not be tentative. When he's an aggressive player, he's an easygoing guy. Off the lanes, he's one of the most likable men you want to meet. But out there, you got to be aggressive. I think that's one of his downfalls in championship matches is not taking the attack to the other player. He needs to stay real aggressive against Holman.
He's had quite a TV record, 28 appearances. His record is 23 wins, 21 losses. And as we said earlier, 6 titles, including the U.S. Open. 12 years member of the PBA. Well, Holman, 16-year member, and 21 titles.
Holman has not had a strike in the match. 6th frame.
So we'll see what he does with the 310.
310 baby split. Just about has to make this to stay close in the match because he's not getting any strikes. Needs to get the ball over in the 3 pins area and then drive it right into the 10. So he has to go through the 310 and he knocks it off just like that. Let's see what he does.
All right. safe. Umpiring his own shot, Marshall Holman.
Here he goes. 6 spares, 6 frames. He's still in the match. Trails by only 15. But he's gonna need some strikes. This is where he started coming to life against Parker Bohn. The 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. The title's on the line.
51,000 total in this match. Four, 7.
Still no trouble, but he's not making up any ground against David Husted. Here's Holman. The long slide, a little extra speed. Drips a little high, 2 pin to the left channel, leaves the 4-7. It'll be another spare for Holman. He's going at a 191 pace. Husted at 208.
You saw David Husted looking, almost boring a hole in front of him. I'm sure Champ and Kathy Husted, his parents back in Oregon, are not looking away. They're watching their son right here.
And they know how important this shot is. He can hit a double here and have Holman bound by 27. That'd be enough to wipe him out.
But oh no, we get the 2-4-8.
And a difficult spare at this situation. The match can turn around just in 1 frame. If he'd happen to miss this, it'd be up for grabs. He'd hold a slight lead, but going into the last 3 frames, it'd be anybody's match. Try to go across lane and drive that 2 pin straight back into the 8. The 4 will go out automatically. Look out.
Ooh,
look out.
Oh.
What a turnaround. Not even close. Did not get out of the ball cleanly. And one thing to watch with David Husted, and I know David critiques his own television performances, is make sure that follow-through comes all the way through above his head. When he starts stiff-arming the shot, then he's in trouble. Right now, he only leads by 1 pin. It's anybody's tournament.
And this time leaving the 4. Until he won at Green Bay last year, he had not won in 2.5 years. Holman hasn't won since 1988, so they both know that feeling, and that is pressure.
Well, that had to be a shot in the arm for Marshall Holman, that error in the 7th frame. Now, there's a better release by Husted. Nice follow through.
Tournament leader sits down, and Marshall Holman, who finished 3rd out of the field of 280 here in the Showboat Invitational, has won 2 matches over Monacelli and Bohn. 8th frame. It's hard to believe first strike in this championship game for Marshall Holman.
In a critical situation, look at Holman's concentration, hands down, he catches all of it. Just saws the 5 pin out, chops the 6, and such an important strike here in the 8th because the pin count puts him in position to take the lead with a strike, and he still only trails by 1 if he doesn't strike. And the way both players are struggling, there's no guarantee anybody's going to strike.
Finished with 4 in a row in his win over Bohn.
He's going to throw his Sunday shot here, Chris. If you've got a 1 ball in your bag to throw it, this is the time, Marshall.
Oh, no. 1, 2, 4, 8.
I don't want it. Do you want it, David? I don't know. It looks so tough. And it looks so easy at home, but tough lane conditions and the 1, 2, 4, 8 spare.
You could only punt in bowling like they will at the East-West Shrine game on ABC tomorrow.
Pros don't miss the head pin very often. Holman have to get the ball on the left side.
Marking he has, including a 310 conversion, 1 strike, and the rest spares. Well, now, Husted, shooting in the 9th, spare up.
Husted, only one strike on the right-hand lane in the match, leads by 1 pin.
A 4.
Husted will make this 4-pin, and we will be tied going into the 10th frame. Both players will be going at a 191 pace.
It's an all-Oregon final. Difference of 16,000 winning, or we like to say runner-up. In a match like this, pity to say somebody lost.
That's true. It's been a very gamesmanship type match, good match play action. One frame will determine the winner. Now, if we have a tie, we'll have a 9th and 10th frame roll-off even for the championship. They will not bowl a whole nother game, and there's a very good possibility of the tie.
All right, dancing the 4 off the deck, onto the deck.
On this shot, David Husted follows through. He lets his arm come all the way through. He gets the first good break of somebody tripping a 4-pin all day long at the most critical point in the tournament. The scoreboard tells a story. Anybody can still win.
29 years we have had some kind of competition here at Showboat. He lose it at the line, or
He gave it the stiff arm shot, Chris. He has no momentum in the arm swing when he just tries to push the ball to the target for accuracy instead of really let that wrist come through and the follow through come up high. He needs to make this to stay even in the match. Still anybody's game. Get the ball to the left of the head pin. Watch the action. Here's how it should be made.
Attention on the face of our spectators, including the general manager, Jack Cook. David Husted, with an open in the 7th frame, has shot a 190.
For Marshall Holman, as you see, Missouri, one of the tough teams, defeating Kansas.
Look at that
an
upset. And form not holding up here. Arizona upsetting 3rd-ranked Oklahoma 78-74.
Holman must strike on this ball to win the tournament in regulation.
Oh, disgust.
Reach back for the extra. Now the best Holman can do is tie. This is for all the wheat. Look at that good high follow through. He knows he threw it well. Not now. All right, we have to make the spare and throw a strike for a tie. Anything less, Husted is the winner.
He often hurries this kind of shot, but ample time. Okay, another spare. One strike in this game.
Well, he needs this 2nd strike to tie the match. Here's the situation. Holman strikes, it's tied. David Husted would get up and bowl the 1st frame on the left, sudden death, 2 frames. If Holman gets anything less than a strike, Husted is a winner. Whew.
Looking away. Whoops. He may look at this. He is. Oh, here we go to extra frames.
Tie match at 190. Holman throws what we call a rope. He doesn't play any hook. Very, very smart shot under tremendous pressure. Drives all the pins straight back. Almost leaves a solid 9. Now, it's David Husted bowling what we consider the 9th frame. Watch the action on the right-hand part of your screen. Holman drives the ball so deeply into the 1-3 pocket, it actually hooks past the 9, gets the break off the sideboard. Now,
Finally, a 9 went out. Not that good follow-through again.
No, he has to let that wrist roll onto the ball. When you try pushing the ball to your target, you don't get the wrist action that you should get. The ball will not break up. In the tiebreaker, consider this for you people at home, the 9th frame, match all even. 2-5 spare for David Husted.
Tied at 190. Bowling for a total of 51,033 and 17. That adds up to 50, doesn't it, Phil?
Well, it's close enough for me. When you get those big numbers, only the IRS counts them that close. Well, let's see what Holman can do. He's been given new life.
Two.
Not so bad. The lanes, we got to remember, are tough. You don't want to go high, get an open frame. He kept it in play. Easy spare. It'll be down to 1 frame again. And if they tie after this 2-frame roll-off, we'll just do it again.
Can't get any? Never mind.
That is 2, right?
He had his 2 re-racks in the match, and even in the tiebreaker, he has not allowed another 2 re-racks, so it was denied by tournament director Harry Golden. 10th frame, all even, championship match, sudden death.
This time Husted is looking away. Four, 7.
You have to wonder what's going through Marshall's mind. He knew he had a good chance to win this. Look at how good his concentration. I tell you, win or lose, Marshall, this is a good performance. It's not your best lane condition, and yet you've hung in there and hung in there. He does have a chance to win.
A little worry at the end.
Holman on his fill ball would end up with a total of 38 with a strike.
Wide World coming up next. World Gymnastics Championships. Men's World Cup downhill from beautiful Kitzbühel, Austria. David looking down lane 60. You can see 59 though. And Marshall Holman has left the 6-10. Tying at 190, Bo.
Well, as Husted comes up here in the 10th frame, he's really struggled on the right-hand lane. He needs basically 17 pins in 2 shots, 2 frames to win the tournament.